in the White Bear. And we are the Ramsey County TCAP. And what I wanted to do today, mine is a little bit more clunky. I'm going to be sharing a couple screenshots, just a few, but we're going to have more conversation here than anything else. NewTrac was birthed nearly 14 years ago by the result of two of our partner organizations, which are Merrick and PAI. They happen to be day programs, and both of those day program organizations, they were finding inefficiencies with their transportation. So what they ended up doing, they put their boards together to figure out what would it take to create a third nonprofit that could take care of their transportation needs. So that was when NewTrac became birthed. And today we do have a fleet of about 65 buses, and we're providing rides to over 600 adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities on a Monday through Friday basis, getting them to and from their day programs. I came aboard about 9 years ago and was tasked with trying to find out how can we continue to use our existing fleet of vehicles, our existing fleet of, not fleet, but our existing resources of drivers, and reach out deeper into community beyond just what we were doing with our two originating partner organizations. We became a TCAP a little before I got involved with NewTrac, representing Ramsey County. And the difference with NewTrac is the other TCAPs are not as much of a service provider and more, I don't mean that in a negative way, it's just that we have a fleet of buses which keep us very busy every day. So they do more of the travel training, volunteer driver kind of things. And as Robin just finished up working with Lyft partners for individual rides, but NewTrac is more of a shared group ride organization, finding the gaps to fill where public transportation does not have those opportunities. So between working with our partner organizations, in addition to on upwards of about 120 different senior communities in and around the Northeast Metro, we are, I don't know, I would say not tasked, but really working hard at trying to fill some of those gaps where some of our riders would not otherwise have transportation opportunity. So when we talk about how many rides that we're providing on an annual basis between our adults with disabilities and our senior programs, we're providing nearly 350,000 rides on an annual basis with our fleet. We work very hard at trying to expand what we can do. Our drivers have some downtime between their morning routes and afternoon routes. And it's at that point where we got very busy and started to investigate what can we do with this fleet of buses to expand to work with seniors and adults with disabilities in community. And it was at that time where we birthed a program called our Circulator Loops. Now, a Circulator Loop is a 1 day a week program, and I'll pull something up very shortly here. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for here. Tell me if you can see that slide of a bus. Is that coming through? Okay, good. Just an example of one of our 65 buses, and these buses out in community on a weekly basis with our Circulator Loop program will go out and serve that community for about a 3.5 hour period of time. We've launched loop programs in White Bear Lake, Vadnais Heights, Montemedi, Forest Lake, Stillwater, Roseville, Shoreview, just many other communities within the Ramsey County boundaries. And it's not a take care of everything type of program, but as I mentioned a little earlier, it is a great fill in the gap type of program. It is not really intended for folks to get out and have their medical appointments met, but it is more of an opportunity for them to go out and get some of their grocery needs, shopping needs, and errands type of events taken care of. Did a map come up on screen? This is an example of what we create when we're building a circulator loop within a community. It really highlights in the kind of these yellow ovals, the various senior buildings that we stop at to pick up folks on a weekly basis at a specific time. They could choose the destination they want to within those boundaries, the geographic area that we serve within that community. And it doesn't have to be the same place every week. They do not have to call ahead for a ride. They simply get on the bus from their building and they tell our driver where they wish to go. We're also expanding in all of the communities an opportunity where if somebody is living in their home and they do not have transportation access within this particular community, we'll pick them up as well. We'll figure out a time. All they need to do is contact us a day in advance, and we will get them to where they want to go in that community. Let me see if I flip here. Did that screenshot change?
Yep.
That shows on the back side of that map just a little bit of the schedule that we have for that particular loop in the White Bear Lake, Vadnais Heights, Montemita area on Thursdays. As you can see, there's a set time for each of those buildings. We have 2 buses that operate for a larger part of that loop, and we have a third bus that we have just brought into play a couple months ago because this loop has gotten so busy. We're serving on upwards of 40 to 45 people every week. It's not always the same people. And I would say we have a list closer to 70 individuals who at one time or another have used that loop service, and that continues to grow. I'll stop sharing here for a second. We have about 5 or 6 loops that are in development now in other areas. We currently have 8 of our circulator loops that have been in action since 2018. I'm also working with probably another 20 to 25 individual senior communities where we are their primary transportation for their events. It could be a shopping event, it could be a restaurant event. We could take them to the zoo, we could take them to a performance, musical or a play, a sporting event. And so those are individual contracted services that we do. We really have not gotten to the point of engaging in any individual ride service, but rather have partnered with a couple different individual ride companies who, when we get requests for an individual ride, we can reach out to those organizations. And conversely, if they're getting hit with the need for their individual vehicles not being able to accommodate a ride request, then they call us and we can provide more of that group ride opportunity. I serve on several different Ramsey County boards for aging in community. I'm the co-president for CLASS, which is the Consortium of Lake Area Senior Services. We have about 35 different senior service providers that collaborate and collect details and information about how we can serve communities better. All of our TCAPs report to MnDOT. And I think one of the questions that came up earlier is, how do you secure funding for your TCAP? Well, because every TCAP is different in the projects that they work on, I think there's different grant opportunities beyond the federal grant programs that help a TCAP survive. There's other grants that are applied for. I know that we work with different area community foundations that enjoy hearing about the work that we're doing, and they wish to perpetuate some of the growth of services that we have within a given area, and some of that funding helps us to do some pilot projects. The great part about being a nonprofit, privatized type of company is that we can develop and try out a whole lot of different program opportunities or projects, whereas a state-run organization or state entity has to go a lot deeper because they're serving the masses. We can try different things and see if it works or not. And if it does, with the right collaboration, the right funding that we can go out and find, we start to build on those programs. And that's a great example of how our circulator loops have increased and grown in size over the years. We have a live well at home relationship, which is a grant opportunity with the state, and we also work with Trellis, which is a Minnesota Agency on Aging, with grant opportunities also. I think that is the extent of what I have to talk about. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that just NewTrac is just a little bit of a different type of TCAP in the fact that we represent Ramsey County, but we also are a very large service provider of transportation.